What's up, nerds, and welcome back to the All Things Nerd podcast.
We're your hosts. My name is Jake, and this is Chad.
This week, we're going to break down WandaVision, Episode 7, and of course,
Mortal Kombat. We're going to talk a little bit about the old 90s movie, the games, and of course, break down the trailer for the new movie coming out.
But before we do that, today's episode is sponsored by Ray's Energy Drinks. It's a healthy alternative to your everyday energy drink. We're also sponsored this week by Anchor FM, the easiest way to have your voice and ideas heard on the internet.
So, let's get into it. This is the All Things Nerd podcast.
Nerd. Alright, welcome back, guys. Now, before we actually dive into this week's episode, just like we do every week, Jake and I, we're going to start off this episode with a good old-fashioned shot of some whiskey. Oh, it's so good.
So good. Not as cold as I wanted it to be, but delicious.
Yeah. Alright, so this week, Episode 7 of WandaVision was launched, and oh my goodness, guys.
So much to talk about.
So much. I'm not going to lie, I've watched it 4 times since Friday.
I've watched it 3. Well, 3.5, because we watched a little bit of it before we started the...
Oh yeah, we did. So... We did kind of recap a few parts. Even after watching it that many times, I don't think I'm okay.
Goosebumps every time.
Yeah.
Every time.
Shit went down, and I don't know how I feel about some of it.
I feel really good about it.
A lot of it. Oh, you feel really...
I feel really good about it.
Yeah.
I may have yelled in my apartment.
I did yell, and I watched it.
I saw your snap.
We're...
So, if anybody doesn't know this, Chad watches WandaVision. He stays up on Thursday nights until like 2 or 3 in the morning. What time is it?
It launches at 2 a.m. in the Midwest because we have to wait till California launches it at midnight.
And so I was asleep. I woke up to a Snapchat from Chad at...
Several Snapchats.
My alarm goes off at 6 in the morning. and I get this snap from Chad. And he's holding his chest. And he's like, my heart is beating so fast. I'm not okay. And I'm like, holy shit, what's going on here? And then he goes, you got to watch WandaVision. And I was like, oh, Jesus Christ, dude. Like, don't do that to me.
Yeah, it was, I watched it twice right away. Yeah. I watched it at 2, the credits hit, and then I restarted the episode because holy shit. Yeah,
holy fuck.
It hit the fan. So yeah, let's break it down. So if you guys haven't been following, first off, major spoiler alert for this entire thing. We probably won't say spoiler alert before every little detail.
Yeah, just know that that's a thing.
This is your warning. If you're listening and you haven't watched episode 7 yet, pause this, go watch it, and then come back to us.
In our defense, these episodes go up on...
Yeah, you should be hearing this on Wednesday, so you've almost had a week. So, yeah. I mean, really, what are you doing with your life?
Get to it.
I mean,
Come on.
Why are you being so responsible that you haven't watched this yet?
Quit working. Go watch the show.
But so, if you've been following the show, you know each episode of the actual, like, sitcom aspect of WandaVision kind of follows a different decade. So now we're to the 2000s, modern time era. They're kind of mocking, you know, that whole, the mockumentary style of TV. The Office, Parks and Rec. But this takes a huge influence from, like, Modern Family.
Yeah. I feel like the intro sounded like The Office to me, right?
Yeah, it had that light synth. It could have very well matched just about any of those shows. They were all very similar with their intros. But yeah, so it starts off, Wanda is laying in bed and being like, yo, I did some crazy stuff last night. Because this episode takes place the day after the Halloween episode from last week. And you start to see that Wanda is kind of losing it. Her idea of like, oh, you know, you intentionally expand the borders of your own fake reality that you created. And she just kind of like stares at the camera. Yeah. This episode is titled Breaking the Fourth Wall, so they do a lot of like staring directly into the camera.
Yeah. Much like Modern Family and The Office.
Yeah, a lot like that. She just kind of like stares off, and you know, you get some random flashbacks to last week's episode. It's just, she's losing her mind. She realizes that she's going a little crazy, which is just absolutely insane. She's like laying in her bed, still in her Halloween costume from the episode before. The twins run into the room and they're like, Mom, our game is going crazy. And it shows them like playing the Wii, and then it like
goes to Xbox controller.
Yeah, and
then to like Atari.
The Atari controller, and then they're just playing cards at the end
Uno.
of it. Yeah, Uno. It's just they don't fully get what's going on either because they're kids. But the way that Wanda decides to punish herself for the way that she acted on Halloween is she's like, I'm just gonna take a day to myself and just stay at home.
Yeah, she's just gonna be a bitch.
Yeah, she's just that will teach her just not living with her consequences.
And if any of you remember how the episode ended, it was Darcy chained to the front of Hayward's Tyler Hayward's
sword.
Chained her to the front of a car and then ran away like a bitch. We said that last time.
Yeah, he's he's a tool.
And then Vision was getting sucked back. He came outside of the hex and was disintegrating and getting pulled back into the hex. And Wanda basically expanded the hex instead of trying to find where he was. She just expanded the hex so that she would absorb him. And in doing so, she absorbed Darcy as well.
Darcy as well as probably at least 100 sword operatives, soldiers. They're not all soldiers, but like the people that were working on the sword pop-up base just outside the hex, they all got absorbed. Basically transformed them. Well, not basically. They got transformed into circus workers. Yeah, we used the word carny last week because it's such a great word.
Don't be offended, gypsies.
Well, we didn't say gypsies. Carnies are different than gypsies. Gypsies are an actual race of people. Carny isn't.
Oh, well, let's cut that part out. Now I feel bad.
Well, no, it's fine. We love the gypsies.
I think gypsies are cool.
Yeah. Gogo Bordello.
I love Gogo Bordello.
Edward Sharp and the Magnetic Zeros.
They're gypsies? I didn't know that.
Yeah, they seem like
I fucking love Gogo. If you haven't listened to Start Wearing Purple by Gogo Bordello, please, God, go listen to it. Make room to like flail your arms because
it is a banger and a half.
That shit will amp you up.
You take indie folk rock and turn it into a banging club song without all the electronics, you get Gogo Bordello.
And they just get hammered.
You just want to dance and party with them.
No, they get hammered.
Well, yeah.
Like, I have never seen them in person.
They're gypsies.
But they just get hammered. I've seen, like, videos of, like, their live concerts. They just, like, chug vodka on stage.
Yeah.
And just start screaming their lyrics at people. It's amazing.
They do what we do, but for a live audience with music.
Yeah. Should we be chugging right now?
I don't think my liver...
I'm going to scream at the end.
My liver can't handle it.
Now I'm screaming at the end.
But, yeah, so the hex expands, and that's kind of where the episode ends. Episode 6. So episode 7 picks up. Wanda is trying to live with what she did, but she's losing control. So she'll be, like, sitting in her living room, and, like, the TV...
goes from, like...
flashes back from, like your modern, like, flat screen TV, whatever. It flashes and changes back to your old 1960s tube television.
Yeah.
Like her fireplace changes from like a built-in with like shiplap and something super modern to basically what you would put in your backyard, but with an exhaust vent like you'd find in the 70s.
Yeah, just a pipe going through the ceiling. But then when we first get to see Vision, then is like literally right after the events of episode 6. 7? 6. Yeah, 6. Yeah. Yeah, and he basically wakes up on the floor, and as he stands up, we get to see Darcy, and she's still chained to a truck. It's just a little different circumstance. Yeah, she's in a circus outfit.
Yeah, she basically was transformed. Since she was chained up, they made her the escape artist of the circus. So she's still chained up. Vision immediately recognizes her and is like,
we made eye contact.
There was an unspoken understanding.
We had a moment.
But
and she's like, nah, creeper.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because Darcy went through the hex, and she's just a human.
Yeah.
And she went through, quote unquote, organically, if you will. I mean, there's nothing organic about some magical force field like absorbing people and changing who they are. But so now she's under Wanda's sway. So she thinks she's part of the circus. So she thinks Vision is a clown.
A clown, yeah.
Hitting on her.
Yeah. And then Vision does the old temple tappy.
Yeah,
knocks her out of
he breaks her out of the mind sway, if you will.
Takes a little longer than I thought it. I remember like watching it and I was like, why the fuck doesn't he do the fucking mind thing?
Yeah.
And then like a couple minutes later he did it and I was like, well, what the fuck? Why didn't you do that in the begin with?
I think the only reason why he didn't do it was first he was seeing if she was herself.
Sure. Yeah.
And then also Kat Dennings is hilarious. So like you have to kind of let her do her thing and be her crazy, funny self. Oh, we'll get to that. Don't you worry.
I motioned something. Sorry.
Yeah, we'll get there. She still shows that she's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But after a few minutes of Vision following Darcy around the circus, being like trying to talk her into believing that he's being honest and be like, no, this is made up. You're not supposed to be here. Yeah. Darcy being hilarious is just like, okay, fine. I'll go out with you, but I am ordering lobster. And Vision tricks her into like looking away so he can...
Because he doesn't want to pay for lobster. I mean, let's be real.
Lobster gets so expensive.
Yeah.
Even just like a fresh lobster roll in Boston. Oh my God, this is so off topic. But when I went to Boston last fall, I paid like $30 for a sandwich, and let me tell you, it was worth it.
No, it wasn't.
Oh, well, you don't eat meat. That's not fair. But anyways, so Darcy gets snapped out of it, and she's like, holy crap. You know, I always wanted to have a guest spot on this TV show, because now they're getting meta. She knows that it's a TV show, broadcast fake reality. So now that she's in there and quote-unquote awake.
And she mentions that was horrible.
Yeah.
Whatever, you know.
And that she just didn't like it. So basically, her and Vision are like, okay, well, Vision's like, I have questions. And Darcy's like, well, I have answers. Let's go talk. So they steal
a carny van.
They steal a carny van. It was for funnel cakes. It was originally a Humvee for the military, but funnel cakes are better.
Yeah, we can get into the transformation of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And they start to leave, and he was Hayward's right-hand man.
He's a guy.
He was the one who actually handcuffed Darcy to the truck.
Another dickhead. He kind of just looks like a jerk too. Even even more so in carny clothes.
Yeah, he looks like he's the strong man.
He's got like that open-chested
unitard on. And he's like, you guys can't go anywhere, and he grabs Darcy by the wrist, and she just haymaker clocks him in the face, and he starts to like, he falls to the ground and starts to cry.
He's like, you hit me in the nose.
And Vision and Darcy, they run to the truck,
steal it.
They steal it, and they start to drive off.
And like for me, I feel like the cool part about that part was, well, after they steal the truck and start driving off, is that Darcy fills Vision in on exactly what happened to him when Thanos basically fucking fisted the stone out of fisted the stone out of Vision's head, which Vision didn't remember, and
he doesn't remember anything.
Darcy fills him in on that, and then he's like, "Oh, so I died," and she goes, "Well, you came back to life," and he goes, "Oh, and then what happened?" And she goes, well, then you died again. And Wanda had to watch all of it happen twice. Well, first she's obviously killed him herself.
Yeah.
And then Thanos turned back time, fisted the stone out of his head, and killed him again in front of Wanda. And so Vision makes a couple statements about, well, I didn't know that Wanda had gone through this trauma, basically. Basically, everything that's happening in the show is based on Wanda's trauma.
Yeah.
That's why she's going so psycho.
Yeah, 100%. So with that being said, back to Wanda now. So she's hanging out at the house. You know, things keep changing on her, and she's trying to change them back, trying to control it, and she's kind of losing it. So she sits... There's actually a really funny interaction with her and the twins. because I think it's Tommy, the one that would be Speed, is like, Mom, what did Uncle Pete mean last night about Dad dying twice?
And she's like, that's not your uncle.
She's like, yeah, don't listen to anything that man has to say. That's not your uncle. And then Billy's like, then who is it?
Yeah.
And she pauses for a second and realizes that she doesn't know how to explain what's going on to her children because she also doesn't know how to explain it to herself.
Yeah, exactly.
But she's like, so I'm your mom.
Yeah.
And you guys look to me for all the answers. And the twins are like, well, yeah, you're our mom.
She's like, well, I don't have all the answers.
I don't have any of the answers. Yeah. I've basically started to believe that nothing matters. Yeah. Nothing means anything.
Yeah. She doesn't give a shit.
And the kids are just like, what? And then she's like, but you guys can figure out your own answers later in life.
Well, then they're like, also, like, where's Dad? And she's like, well, if he doesn't want to be here, he doesn't have to be here.
Yeah.
I don't care. Like, she just doesn't give a fudge.
She's having an existential crisis.
Yeah.
In a very public way now.
Well, and then, so, I'm sorry, this is so funny to me. There's, like, a part where she is, because this is very heavily influenced by The Office and Modern Family, there's a part where she's talking to the camera, and she's like, I'm fine. And I thought that was so funny, because I don't know if you've watched Friends. I've watched it.
Yeah.
I think it's funny when Ross finds out Rachel and Joey are dating, and he's like, I'm fine. He like burns his hands like pulling shit out of the oven and like making margaritas and shit. Like that's what it reminded me of. She said it like 9 times. She's like, I'm fine.
It was at that point in time where I was like, oh my god,
she's not fine.
She's not okay. She is 100% not fine. Because she's like Jake said, like, I'm fine.
She's like, I don't understand what's happening. I'm fine. Let's see how many times. We should just count how many times we said I'm fine in this podcast.
Almost as many times as Wanda did. But then, of course, right on cue, knock at the door. Agnes comes in. And
sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but the cool part about that is that when we've talked about in past, in the other 2 episodes that we did on here, that Agnes shows up at like the opportune moments, right?
Always.
So when Agnes shows up at the part you're about to talk about, and I'll hand it right back to you, Wanda, as soon as she hears the knock on the door, she goes, come in, Agnes. Like she knew right away that that's who it was.
Oh, I didn't even notice that she said, come in, Agnes. I just noticed that she says, come in, and then she like flicks her hand magic and opens the door for her because, I mean, Agnes was in the scenes when the kids went from babies to 5-year-olds.
Every single scene that has been convenient for her to be there to help out in some way, she's been there, and now, Wanda just goes, come in, Agnes, and fucks the door open,
and so Agnes comes in, and she's like, I'm here to help, like, you don't look so good, basically, without saying that, like...
Let me take the kids.
Yeah, let me take the kids, give you an afternoon to yourself. And Wanda's like, okay, awesome, go. And the kids are like, well, what about you? And she's like, I'll be fine, just go with Agnes.
Yeah.
I'm only going to mention this because I love Catherine Hahn, and this is a scene that is just so Catherine Hahn, like, comedy. She takes the twins, and she's like, it's okay, you can come with me. I won't bite. And then she looks at the camera because they're breaking the 4th wall, and it's, very meta Office, Modern Family-esque. And then it cuts to her, like, sitting on her couch where she's, like, talking to the documentarian. And she's like, I did bite a kid once. And that's all she says, and she just kind of, like, chuckles.
Don't worry, I don't bite. And I did bite a kid once.
Yeah, and it's just her being funny. And, so Agnes takes the kids.
And then we cut away to what's going on with Monica. So after that whole scene happens, we get to see what's going on with Monica and Agent Jimmy Woo. Is it Jimmy Woo? Jimmy? Yeah, Jimmy Woo. And basically Monica goes to some military place, and her and Jimmy...
So she's going to go meet her contact.
We kind of
talked about. And as they're going, Jimmy's like on his phone. He's like, Okay, Darcy did get through that final firewall where she was trying to break into Tyler Hayward's.
Codename Cataract.
Yeah, codename Cataract. For those that don't know what a cataract is, it's a disease of the eyes. So when you have cataract surgery, you're fixing your vision. And that's why it's codenamed Cataract, because the entire purpose of the Cataract Project was they wanted to bring vision back online. They wanted, and Monica even says that, so Tyler Hayward wanted his...
Asshole.
Yeah, and dickwad. He wanted his sentient weapon back.
But the difference now would be is that Vision is no longer controlled by the Mind Stone. So if they took over Vision without him being able to control himself, basically he wouldn't have a mind of his own. They would be able to control.
They were basically
this advanced robot
trying to resurrect Vision, which is against the Sokovia Accords, which Tyler Hayward even talks about how Wanda is breaking the law by going against the Sokovia Accords in previous episodes by bringing Vision back to life.
Yeah.
But that's what he wanted from the start, which is why they've been following Vision so heavily. That's why they're so invested.
Yeah, there's a part, I think, in either last episode or the episode before where they're monitoring what's happening inside of the Hex, and I think Hayward says, follow Vision. And they're like, well, Wanda is the one doing this, and he goes, stay on Vision.
Yeah, they're following his the vibranium decay signature.
Yeah.
Because it puts off a small amount of radiation. Yada, yada, yada. Basically, that's how they're able to kind of know what's going on inside the Hex without even watching the sitcom broadcast.
Yeah.
But, so, Hayward, we learn, is basically trying to do exactly what Wanda did.
But did she, though? Did she, though? I mean, we'll get to it when we talk about the end of the episode, but...
It's still kind of up in the air, to be honest.
Because there is the question, too, and I won't spill anything right now, but there is the question, too, why can't Vision leave the Hex?
Right. Why can't he leave the Hex? And why can't, if Wanda is in control, why can't she control him?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a huge one. Yeah.
So,
that's just so Minnesotan to me. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you betcha we'll get to that, okay. Ope.
I say ope religiously.
I don't know that I do, but I do.
I even text it. I put it on a video the other day.
But so now, Monica and Jimmy are driving to meet her contacts. It's still up in the air who her contacts are. Because when they go to meet them, like it's a small military compound, like a tent, there's a couple of vehicles. And when they get out of the Humvee that Jimmy and Monica stole and drove out to meet her contacts, like we meet a couple of people, but we don't really know who they are still. Like,
I mean, they're Sword, but I don't know who.
They're Sword, and
there's still a higher up that they're talking to that we don't know who it is yet.
Yeah, we still don't know who they are. So all those conspiracies and Easter eggs as to who people think that Monica's contacts are, we're still unanswered.
Yeah.
But we get there. They roll out this space rover of a vehicle. It's heavily armored. Monica's like, this is perfect. This will get me back into the Hex.
Without affecting me.
Yeah, without affecting her. So she suits up in like space gear, like her Under Armour, space gear. She loads herself into the rover and she starts driving towards the Hex. And Jimmy turns to one of the soldiers there, one of the officers, is like, how much confidence do you have in this machine? And the lady, I think her name is Goodard. Goodyear. It's not Goodyear, but it's close. I think it's Goodard. But he's like, how much confidence do you have in this rover? And she turns to Agent Wu and she's like, this is our most heavily armored space rover. She's going to fly right through the Hex without a problem.
Which is what she tried to do.
She
did not try to ease into it at all.
flooring it right towards the barrier of the hex. Hits the barrier of the hex and stops. Well, she hits, and then the hex tries to kind of like, she tries to force through the barrier of the hex. The hex is like, what up?
Grow up, Chad. Grow up, Chad.
What did I say?
No, I'm laughing at myself because I started laughing at what you said, and I'm just being...
What did I say? Okay.
Edit it out. Please edit it out.
Okay. So she hits the barrier of the hex. Monica's driving. It's just her in this rover. She tries to like floor the rover to push through the barrier. She's like, it's gonna go. It starts to... Basically, the hex like picks the rover up off the ground. Yeah. You start to see like the radiation from the hex like melt through the rover.
Yeah.
So Monica like abandons ship. She jumps out of it.
Wu's yelling, "Get out of there!"
Yeah.
It's gonna. And then what? Well, the one lady who we're naming Goddard for now.
Yeah.
Is like, what'd she say? She's like, it's
disintegrating.
It's disintegrating it, and Wu says, it's changing it. Yeah. It's rewriting it. That's what he says. Yeah.
So Monica bails. She
at the last second.
Yeah, very last. There's a lot of like suspense built into that as she tries to like get out of the vehicle, and then the hex picks the rover completely off the ground and then spits it out, and it's turns
into like a 1950s like.
Well, it's like a
pickup
more
truck.
like a 1990s Astro van with wood paneling.
Half of it.
Yeah,
half
just
of it
the front half.
Half of it is still
the rover. A space rover. Yeah. The front half is
the front half that went into the hex.
Creeper van.
Yeah. Which just shows that if you go in there, you get fucked.
Yeah, you just basically are
turned into
susceptible
Wanda's
to
puppet.
Whatever the going decade is.
Yeah.
And there's like a moment of silence with the van rover hybrid just laying on the ground.
Couple weird glances between Jimmy and Monica.
She looks at Jimmy, she looks at the hex, she looks at the rover, and then Jimmy's like, oh shit.
He says no. He goes no. And then in the words of Chad, she fucks off into the hex.
Yeah, she's just like, I can get through it. And then she fucks off.
And she fucks off.
So she runs to the hex, and she just like...
She basically hits the... She gets through, but like she hits the wall almost in the same way that the rover hit the wall. Like it stops her for a second, and then she kind of just pushes through slowly, and then gets through. And as she's in there, a whole bunch of crazy shit happens.
Yeah. So what does happen, Jake, as she's being pushed through?
Well, she splits into, like, I mean, you see like holograms of herself basically splitting off of her body into like 3 or 4 different scenarios of herself. You get to hear a little bit of both her mom, who is Maria Rambeau, and Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers from Captain Marvel. And they're kind of conversating. There's some stuff, I don't remember exactly what was said, but
they take different like sound clips from Captain Marvel of interactions between like the 3 of them. Maria telling Monica like, I can't go and help Auntie Carol because it's too dangerous.
Yeah.
And Monica's like, but it's the coolest thing ever. I can stay with Grandma and Grandpa. When Maria is telling Carol, you know, like, you're the most powerful woman I've ever known.
Yeah.
You hear a little bit of Nick Fury being like, well...
Which are all clips of, like old things that we've already heard in, like, older movies.
Yeah, they're sound clips directly taken from the Captain Marvel film.
And for any, like, new listeners, hopefully there's new listeners, Monica is the daughter of Maria, who you see, she was the she was the pilot, Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel's pilot in Captain Marvel.
Yeah, basically her wing woman.
And her best friend.
But in actual Air Force terms.
And after Captain Marvel goes missing, she comes back. She doesn't remember her friend, but her friend has a daughter. In the movie Captain Marvel, her daughter would have been maybe like 10 years old or something like that.
At most.
So now...
7 to 10.
You know, that movie was set in the 90s. So now all these years later, and after the snap and then the blip, Monica is the daughter of Captain Marvel's best friend. So Just throw that in there just in case anybody doesn't know.
Just as a quick recap.
Yeah.
So as Monica's pushing through, though, she's hearing these voices in her head calling back to her childhood.
And the cool shit happens. What happens?
Oh my goodness, the coolest shit.
I got goosebumps. Oh. And I fucking yelled. And I was like, I knew it! We mentioned it in our last episode.
Yeah.
We did.
What we thought was going to happen. Because they were hinting about Monica's DNA changing from going through the hex previously. But as she's pushing through, her eyes start to glow blue.
And then
for those that haven't seen it, first off, why are you here listening to this? Go watch
it.
WandaVision. But for those,
and then come back and listen to this.
Yeah, but for those of you that know, Monica is an African American woman. She's got dark skin, dark hair, thick thighs.
Save lives.
Thick thighs save lives. But she also has dark brown eyes. But her eyes start to glow like a bright blue.
Blue. Like baby blue or something.
Just
insane.
Super vibrant as she's pushing through the hex barrier.
And then once her eyes glow blue, she just... boom. Yeah. She gets all of her personalities that you see that split away from her inside of the hex wall. They all kind of come together once her eyes turn blue. And then she just runs, or as Chad mentioned, kind of maybe seems like she
flies.
Yeah.
The arm motion stops and she starts moving faster. And then she hits the interior barrier of the hex. So now she's in this alternate reality. And she kind of stumbles out, falls to the ground, but her eyes are still glowing blue.
So fucking cool.
Yes.
It was awesome.
And as she looks around, you get a point of view perspective from
what
Monica.
She sees, yeah.
And what does she see?
Oh, man. You see the power lines and the posts and everything. They're all just glowing a bright blue and purplish color. And yeah, she is obviously seeing energy, I think, right? Yeah, energy. Yeah. And she's just... It's going to be cool.
So she's seeing the energy. So for those of you that have read the comics or listened to us when we speculated about, who Monica becomes, in the comics she becomes, a version of Captain Marvel, but for part of her comic book run, she goes by the moniker Photon, because that was her mom's nickname in the Air Force, kind of like Captain Marvel was Carol the Avenger Danvers.
Yeah.
Monica was, or not Monica, her mother Maria was Photon Rambeau.
Yeah.
So she goes by Photon in some of the comics, but her power is...
Futon.
She
unfolds for a nice place to sleep.
Oh.
No, I meant for her superpower.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I did not mean it like that, I swear to God.
But basically her power is she can... visualize and absorb surrounding energy forces and then re-exert them in a way that makes sense.
Yeah.
For whatever she needs to do. But so she's doing that. Her eyes kind of fade from blue and then goes back to brown. She takes off her spacesuit, so she's just in her Under Armour. And then she runs into town to try and find Wanda.
So it's before she goes into the hex, she tells them that the only way to stop Wanda is, she says, it started with Wanda, it has to end with Wanda. We have to get through to Wanda. She's not a bad person. Yeah. She's just got some issues going on. I need to talk to her, blah, blah, blah.
She uses the phrase, if Monica's the problem, she has to be the solution.
Wanda.
Yeah. If Wanda's the solution. Monica says that if Wanda's the problem, she has to be the solution.
So, fast forward, she goes through the hex, blah, blah, eyes glowing. She goes in, she meets up with Wanda. She just walks into Wanda's house. The kids are gone. They're with Agnes. And Monica goes in and goes, hey, this is what's going on. It's all about you. It's all about Vision. And Wanda flips the frick out.
Yeah, she's not happy.
And to use Chad's word here, she yeets her out of the house. She lifts her up with her little witchy magic and just goes boop, and pushes her
right out the front door.
Right out the front door. And the coolest effing thing, one of the coolest effing things that happens in the episode is Wanda goes to slam Monica on the ground, and Monica just takes it, lands, superhero landing, and fucking her whole body just lights up bright blue. Her eyes light up bright blue, and you get this look on Wanda's face when she sees this happen, like, I fucked up. I fucked up. Yeah, it is cool as shit.
I fucked up.
Yeah.
Wanda and Monica are having an altercation in the front yard. The neighbors are starting to watch. We see Dottie again, which we haven't seen since episode 2, maybe episode 3.
Yeah. I feel like that's going to maybe be a big deal. I don't want to say it's going to be a big deal, but...
I used to think that it was going to be a big deal. I don't think that Dottie is that important anymore.
I just don't...
I think that she might have been...
I feel like
important
Dottie...
for the scene, and you'll understand why a little bit later when we finish out the episode as to why Dottie might have been important at one point in time.
See, I feel like Dottie and... what's the guy? Not Ralph. Obviously not Ralph. We haven't seen Ralph yet. But the African-American guy. Tall, big
Herb.
guy. Herb. Frankenstein. That's what I should have went with. Sorry. Him, Agnes, and Dottie talk to each other and like whisper and shit like around the... There's something there. I don't know what it is. And this is the first time we've seen Dottie since episode 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Could have hold some sort of significance. Or it's going to hold no significance and I wasted a couple minutes of your time. I'm sorry.
It's fine. I'll forgive you.
I meant the listeners. I don't care if I wasted
They're
going to
hold it against you forever for being wrong.
Please do.
So there's this entire conflict going on. And then, of course, before we finish out the episode, there's a commercial break. Like there is in every single episode. Now, before we talk about that commercial, I do want to just reiterate that this week, one of our sponsors is Anchor FM. Fantastic online platform for sharing your ideas, and Jake's going to tell you a little bit more about that here right now.
Do you have good ideas you want others to hear? Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? If you're considering starting a podcast and don't know where to start, look at Anchor.fm. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to start a podcast. Let me explain. To start, it's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will then distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and the most popular podcast streaming apps. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place, convenient and easy to use. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
All right, so the commercial for this episode
is a depression medication.
It was an antidepressant medication called Nexus. For those of you that have watched the other films in the MCU, you might recognize the name Nexus from the Age of Ultron, which so much of this show actually, especially the commercials, tie into. So in Age of Ultron, the Nexus is like the central internet hub in Zurn, Switzerland, which is where Tony Stark goes to try and track down their unknown ally, who is basically beating Ultron out of finding nuclear weapon codes. Yeah. It turns out that their ally was Jarvis, who later becomes Vision. Mm-hmm. He was the original AI that Tony Stark used to basically run his house, his business, everything.
And his suit, most importantly.
And his suit. The Nexus is kind of like the central hub where we find out that Jarvis is way more powerful than we thought.
Yeah.
So
he's basically a brain.
Yeah, he's
an online brain.
He really has gone fully autonomous at this point in time, because in Age of Ultron
kills him.
Thinks he destroys the Jarvis protocol or the Jarvis code.
That's what he says when he says, I had to kill the other guy.
Yeah, he's talking about Jarvis. Mm-hmm. And it turns out that Jarvis just kind of dove deeper into the internet in that case and continued running his safety protocols to protect mankind.
Which is kind of cool because you see that a little bit in episode 6 where even though Vision, like I almost said Jarvis. And
they're two in the same, really. Same voice. It's all Paul Bettany.
Even though Vision realizes that he could be, we don't know this for sure, but he could be basically made up. He's still trying to help people. And when he's crawling out of the hex and getting disintegrated and pulled back into the hex, he's literally screaming to Sword and is like, help these people. These people need your help. Like, help them.
So that's the way that I saw the Nexus commercial. I mean, there's probably deeper layers that I missed.
Well, there's a couple things where, you know, they say like, if you take this medication or whatever, it's going to make you face reality. Like,
yeah, the side effects.
Yeah. So it's
facing your feelings.
Yeah, it's
more depression.
Yeah, more depression. Yeah.
Oh, I almost lost it at that. As someone who has been medicated for depression, I was like, oh, I get that.
But in correspondence to Wanda, it's, you know, like she is obviously, this whole fucking thing is because she just can't cope with, and in her defense a little bit is because everybody's gone. Iron Man, Captain America, her brother.
Her support network is basically just gone. But the way that I interpreted the commercial was that it's linking to Nexus to find your way back to some sort of semblance. And in Iron Man or Robert Downey Jr., he goes to the Nexus in Switzerland to figure out who the ally is to find, you know, some sort of support. And it turns out that it was, you know, someone that has been there the entire time. It's Jarvis in Age of Ultron. Now it's Vision. But that's kind of like the birth of Vision. Because it turns out that his programming is beyond a simple code. And he's truly intelligent. He's fully aware. Yeah. Which kind of relates back to the show as, you know, Vision is more and more aware that this isn't real. That he has to, you know, do everything that he can to protect those around him, especially those that matter. So that's kind of the way that I took it.
Fun fact, did you know...
No. I don't know. What?
Did you know in real life, Paul Bettany is married to Jennifer Connelly?
I did not know that.
No? And also, did you know that in the first Spider-Man movie, the girl inside of Spider-Man's suit that is voicing the operating system for his suit is Jennifer Connelly?
I did not know that. It's really unfortunate that they named her Karen now.
They did. Well, first it was Suit Lady, then it was Karen.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's Paul Bettany's wife, Jennifer Connelly. Yeah, pretty badass. Who was in the Hulk movie that totally sucked ass. It's on the floor. Remember you threw it on the floor.
I thought I silenced it. The first Hulk movie.
So, yeah, she was, she played Betty. In with the Hulk movie with Eric Bana. Eric Bana. And, she played Betty Ross.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Sorry to everyone else. You're probably never going to hear that because I will probably cut it for time.
No, do not cut that up. It's a fun fact.
Fun fact.
Jennifer Connelly, who is Suit Lady / Karen in Spider-Man, is in real life Jennifer Connelly, married to Vision, played by Paul Bettany, which is kind of a cool thing. And yeah.
That is cool.
Anyways.
So yeah, that's the end of the commercial.
Yeah. Let's get into the end of the fucking episode where shit gets wild.
Oh my god. It just...
Wild. We kind of dug into...
Take a handful of poop and you throw it at a fan. Gross. So, Monica and Wanda.
We got into a little showdown.
They're fighting in the front yard. Agnes comes out.
Ooh, so Agnes is watching through the blinds.
At first.
And like a snoopy neighbor. But then she comes out and basically tells Monica to, like, fuck off.
Yeah. Young lady, you have overstayed your welcome.
Yeah.
Get fucked, stay fucked. Hashtag GFC. If you know what that means, good for you.
Get fucked, stay fucked.
But so she basically tells Monica, like, stand down. Wanda's been through enough. And then she ushers Wanda back to her house, which is, like, 3 doors down.
If I go crazy, then will you still call me Superman?
You know, the real 3 doors down. But so they head back to Agnes's house. Fuck.
Oh boy.
What up, 90s?
3 doors down.
90s vocals in the mid 2000s.
R's. Hey, it's all about the R's.
Yeah.
You put R at the end of everything.
Well, I mean,
what was it?
You have to ask yourself, WWSSD. What would Scott Stapp do?
Oh God. Was that was Creed, right?
Arms wide open.
With your arms wide open. Yeah. Stupid.
Oh, I'm so sorry that you guys had to deal with it, but I'm not.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm not sorry.
So Wanda and Agnes head back. Yeah, they go 3 doors down. They end up back at Agnes's house. Agnes walks around and is like, do you want tea? Wanda's like, yeah, sure, why not? And as Wanda is sitting on the sofa in Agnes's living room, she notices that there's 2 plates in front of her with, like, half-eaten PB&Js and potato chips and, like, some sort of drink.
Basically, remember that the kids were with Agnes. She was basically giving Wanda a day to rest. So she was like, let me take the kids, you chill. And then, yeah. So, anyways, sorry.
And there's the twins are nowhere to be found. Wanda...
Keep that in there.
So Wanda, you know, kind of like says from the other room to Agnes, like, hey, where are the twins? And Agnes is like, oh, they must be in the basement playing. And Wanda looks around the living room. You know, it's kind of eerie, but it's not.
They start playing some like eerie music. The only reason I know this is because I watch my TV with the subtitles on, and it says playing eerie music. So I know that for a fact. And
that's how he knows genres so well.
And as Wanda is looking around, she notices, or not, maybe she doesn't notice, but they do show a fly on the curtains in the living room, and they zoom in on this fly. And the reason this is so crazy important is because Chad is going to tell you.
So, because
I didn't know this.
Early in the comics, like one of the first times that Mephisto, who we talked about in previous episodes, he's basically the devil. He runs the hell dimension in the Marvel universe. He's a shapeshifter. One of the first times that you're ever introduced to Mephisto in the comics is he is literally a fly on the wall. So by them zooming in on the fly, it just really hints like that very well could have been Mephisto.
And there's been a lot of speculation this whole series that Mephisto is the main villain in this show. And we don't know that for sure, but I'm pretty sure that we know that for sure.
Pretty sure that we know that for sure, but we don't know that for sure because if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck.
Or a goose.
Everything is pointing towards Mephisto without saying the name Mephisto. But so Wanda gets up from the couch and she heads to the basement of Agnes's house. And it is super eerie. Like the second she opens the door to the basement and you see the basement, there's plastic wrap everywhere. It looks like a murder basement. Eerie, it's creepy. And she basically comes up to a doorway that leads to a hallway.
Well, I feel like we should mention the vines that are all on the walls, because that's going to come up a little later, but when we close this out too.
Yeah, so the vines kind of like, they come out of this doorway.
Yeah.
And they kind of like wrap around a little bit of the basement. It looks eerie.
Yeah.
So Wanda kind of stands at the entryway. She's like, Billy, Tommy, like trying to find the twins. And she starts walking down this hallway. But as she starts walking down the hallway, if you're paying attention to the screen on the TV, the aspect ratio of the filming goes from it being full screen, so your entire TV screen, those black bars start to zoom in to show that it is now your true traditional like widescreen like you would see at the movie theaters or movies that you like rent or view or anything like that.
Keep talking.
Basically meaning that she's now left the Hex. She's no longer a part of the sitcom. She's in a different realm.
I noticed, I'm going to get to the point that I was saying I was going to get to after you talked about that. But I did notice in the beginning of the episode, I remember specifically saying this to Nicole, was that when they're outside of the Hex, and they come back in, and Vision is laying on the ground in the beginning of the episode, and he like wakes up, those bars expand, and it becomes full screen. So that is awesome that you pointed that out, because I did not realize that they did it a second time in that episode.
Yeah,
and that's dumb on me.
Anytime that they're
for being a nerd podcast, and I didn't catch on that.
Anytime that they're inside of the Hex, the aspect ratio is different,
showing that with her walking through that corridor in the basement, that she was no longer in
the Hex.
The Hex.
Yep. So by her doing that, she's now left the Hex, and she comes into.
See, we teach each other things on here too.
It's great.
We're gonna teach you guys stuff. We're gonna teach each other stuff. It's gonna be great.
But so now she's in this dark cavernous. It's like a dungeon.
Yeah.
And what does she see?
And you know, all right. So if you are following us, and I hope you guys are, you know that Chad and I have both, and other people, we're not the only ones who have
We're the only ones. Don't listen
We
to
are
them.
the only ones, actually. Yeah, nobody else.
No one else is
They
right.
got this from us.
Yeah.
Mephisto is going to be the bad guy in the show. Our hearts are set on it. And when you see Wanda walk into this room,
it's like a dungeon.
It's
really.
like a dungeon. Yeah. There's a bunch of pillars in the room, and if you didn't notice this when you watch it, go back and watch this part. You are going to see on all of the pillars that are in this dungeon, you're going to see a devil's face carved into each of those pillars. That face is Mephisto. As we've said on this podcast already, is that Mephisto is the devil in the Marvel realm. He's a demon. He controls the hell realm in Marvel, and you see his face carved into multiple pillars in this room. It is fucking cool. And then you get to see a book that is glowing, and Chad knows what this is. I know a little bit, but he knows more, so I'm going to let him.
So, the book that you see glowing in this dungeon, it has some weird symbols on it. Don't know 100% what those symbols actually are. But for people of nerd life, I guess, will know, or at least speculate with me, that is what in the Marvel universe they call the Darkhold. Basically, it's Mephisto's book. It teaches whoever reads it dark magic that exists in the universe. But the callback to that is we've already seen the Darkhold in the MCU, at least on television. It plays a big role in at least, I think it's season 5, a little bit of season 4 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It also plays a pretty big role in The Runaways.
Marvel's Runaways.
But basically what it is it's like the Book of the Devil. It's a magical book that explains the dark magic of the universe. But what's interesting is we almost got a hint to the Darkhold in Doctor Strange, the first film, not the one that's coming out. In the original Doctor Strange with Benedict Cumberbatch, or if you prefer to call him by his real name, Benadryl Cucumber. When he's in the library talking to Wong, God. And he's looking at these books that are chained up, and Wong is like, those books are too advanced for you. They're only the Sorcerer Supreme can read those without being corrupted. They show dark magic, and on the wall of these dark books, one is missing. And a lot of people will be like, oh, but that's what the bad guy from Doctor Strange 1 took. No. The bad guy in Doctor Strange only took pages out of a book. So there is still a single book missing. I believe it's the Darkhold, because it fits in with what that wall of books are, but also the fact that the Darkhold was Mephisto's book.
Yeah.
It was his way of creating portals through magic to different dimensions, so he could leave the Hell dimension, the Hell realm, come to Earth, and we see it. It's glowing, it's on display, and then as Wanda's looking around, she's super confused. You hear Agnes into the room. And
Agnes.
What does she do?
Agnes, with her fucking weird little bunny, comes into the room, Mr. Scratches.
Senor Scratchy.
Is it Senor Scratches?
Senor Scratchy.
Comes into the room, and she fucking says, sorry for the effing. She comes into the room, and she says, you didn't think you were the only one with powers, or the only witch?
The only magical gal.
And then it pans out, and it shows Agnes, and they do a little 50s like doo-wop or whatever song of Agnes, and it basically shows that Agnes has been pulling the strings all along, and Agnes's name, which we mentioned because we knew this was coming in the last podcast, was Agatha Harkness, which is a witch from the 1700s, the Salem witch trials, and fucking dope. Her eyes glow purple, and yeah, they show all this fucked up shit that she's been doing the entire time, like controlling Evan Peters' Quicksilver. She killed Sparky, the dog. She killed
the twins' dog from 2 episodes ago.
And if you remember this, because I remember it, because I thought it was pretty smart of you, Chad in the last podcast said that when Vision is talking to Agnes in her car when she's all blacked out or whatever, that she laughs, and it sounded almost like a cackle, like a witch. And in this episode, when they freaking show that it's Agatha Harkness, they actually show her in the car as Agatha Harkness, and she basically smiles at the camera and adjusts the mirror, and then while Vision isn't looking. So yeah, Chad totally nailed that on the head. We both knew that was going to be Agatha Harkness, but it was awesome to see her. It was
hard to beat. Her name is Agnes Harkness.
Yeah.
Agnes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the first part and the last part of her two names put together.
But it's awesome to see her come to life in her character now, and I'm excited to see like what's gonna happen now.
This is why I was so shook, because when that happened, like I knew that she was gonna play a part, but in the comics, she sometimes picks up the role of like the anti-hero. Like in some of the comic book stories, like she helps Wanda develop her powers a little bit further. Other times she's just straight up evil, wanting to take over Earth.
We may still see that too.
So yeah, it's kind of up in the air, like which version are we getting this early on? But
where we are right now is we see Wanda is a witch. Okay, Agatha is a witch. Agatha keeps mentioning her husband Ralph in the show. We have not met Ralph yet. Chad and I's theory, and more Chad's than mine because he's the one who told me about this, is that the fly on the wall in this episode is Mephisto. And because apparently in the comics, that's his first appearance is as a fly on the wall. And that would make sense because they put a lot of emphasis on that fly in that episode.
It was a big-ass fly.
Yeah, they zoomed in on it. Pretty wild, yeah. And so I'm pretty sure that Chad's right here, and I trust my partner in crime here. I think we're going to see Mephisto manifest.
Ooh. Mephisto manifest? What up? That Ralph is Mephisto.
Yeah, he's got to be.
He has to be.
He's got to be.
Who else is he going to be? Credits roll, right? Please stand by. Beep. Goes into the credits. But that's not the end of this episode.
It's not.
This is the first episode of WandaVision.
Episode 7 has an after credit scene.
After credit scene in true Marvel fashion. What happens in that credit scene, Jake?
You get to see Monica creeping up to the house.
Whose house?
Agatha's house.
Yeah.
There's a cellar door. She opens up the cellar doors, and you see those vines again that we were talking about that were going to come up later in this conversation. And those vines are glowing purple, like bright purple. And all of a sudden,
Evan Peters, a.k.a. who we thought was the reincarnation of Pietro, sneak up on Monica and just like totally startle her, looking like a total frat bro.
Yeah.
Slouch beanie, zip up hoodie, like just he just looks so out of place. But he says,
"Snooper's gonna snoop."
Snooper's gonna snoop, and then
that's it.
Black, and then that's the end of the episode. So what does it mean?
Who knows? We have 2 episodes left.
There's a lot of speculation, not enough time. We've kind of thrown in some speculation here and there as to what's coming, but we'll have to wait another week to actually know. So we'll keep you posted.
We did talk about, I think Chad and I both had mentioned that we think that the only person powerful enough to stop Wanda in the last episode was that Monica was going to get her powers and be the only person that could put up a fight. And I think now...
After this episode, I think we're really leading up to a showdown.
We're really spot on with that, I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah. So that's episode 7, guys. With that being said, before we dive into our next spot of... We're going to break down the Mortal Kombat trailer that just launched. Talk a little bit about that. But before we do that, I do want to take just a quick second and just talk to you guys about our other sponsor this week, Raise Energy Drinks. What's up, nerds? I wanted to take a minute and talk to you about Raise Energy, an incredible energy drink that provides max energy with zero crash. Raise Energy takes a giant leap of faith with instilling a high-quality formula to bring a powerful, yet sustained, energetic experience to help you push your workouts and focus to the next level. Perfect for anyone at any time, and powered by their Refresh formula technology, Raise Energy delivers a performance-enhancing energy drink that aids in multiple different categories that include targeted focus, better recovery time, improved clean energy levels, and a boost in stamina and hydration. But most importantly, every can of Raise Energy has absolutely 0 calories, 0 sugar, and 0 carbohydrates to give you a smarter and healthier option. So don't settle for an energy drink that contains more sugar and carbohydrates than you can count. Instead, head over to repsports.com. That's REPPSPORTS.com and use the promo code NERDPODCAST at checkout for 15% off your order. Or if you don't know what you want, go ahead and click the link that's in the description to get a $50 sample pack for free. All you do is you cover the cost of shipping. Again, make sure you use promo code NERDPODCAST at checkout to let them know that we sent you.
All right, guys. So we wrapped up on WandaVision this week. The other thing we wanted to get into a little bit, we won't spend too much time on it, but we wanted to talk about the trailer for Mortal Kombat. If you guys are as old as we are, this is really fucking cool because when we were kids, we played Mortal Kombat on the floor in front of a TV eating pizza rolls or something like that. It was really lame.
You had to change the channel to 3?
Yeah, you physically. There was no remote. You had to turn the dial on the TV to get to channel 3. It was badass. The game was so cool, and when we were kids, it was the first of it. Well, yeah, about the first of its kind, and it was super bloody. The graphics were terrible, but at the time they were awesome. So now we got this movie coming out, and we're super excited about it. It looks awesome. We just watched the trailer before we started this podcast. There was a movie back in the 90s, early to mid 90s.
Yeah, I think it was early 90s. Back then, it was awesome.
It was so cool. When I was a kid, I remember loving this movie.
It was so good because it was also like unlike anything that we'd ever seen. It kind of like expanded on this video game that we grew up.
Yeah,
playing.
We loved it, and it was so popular. But then,
looking back at the movie now, I kind of wish it didn't happen.
I watched it. I'm not kidding. I watched it like 2 years ago. I don't remember what platform it was on, but it was on something, and I watched it, and I was just like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
this is so bad.
Why was this made?
It was so bad.
It really wasn't good. It was so...
It's kind of like Sharknado. Where you just watch it and you're like, man, this is good because it's so terrible.
Yeah. So, this movie is a reboot. Or a remake, if you will.
It's a reboot. It's definitely a reboot.
Yeah, let's go with reboot. Because we're going to forget that first version happened.
What version?
Exactly. This trailer, though, looks so good.
Oh, brutal.
It's going to be heavily gory. It's going to focus so much on the actual combat to the point where the story of this movie, the acting of this movie can all just suck.
But it's going to be cool to watch regardless.
But it's going to look great.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Realistically, the acting is not going to be awesome because there's only like...
Chances are it's going to be subpar.
Yeah. Suck, yeah.
But it's going to look awesome. I read online that the director basically was asked, how gory is this movie going to be? Because as time has gone on, the video games have gotten more and more bloody, more and more gory. And
they didn't ever show in the 90s movie, they never did finishing moves. Yeah. They never did finish him and do like some cool gory scene. But this one looks like this.
We're going to get some finishing moves first off, which is going to be awesome. But the director was asking, like, how gory, how grotesque is this movie going to get? And his answer was, well, there are things that you can and cannot film if you want to put this movie out for a worldwide market. And we took everything that you can film, and then we pushed the limits.
Yeah.
So this movie is going to be as just... grotesque and gory and just... I mean, I hate to just describe it with a blanket term, but it's going to be violent.
Yeah.
It's just going to be
brutal. Hopefully the movie itself doesn't suck, but if it does, at least we get to see some cool shit. Right?
Yeah, and they kind of touch on in the preview, they're going to show a couple of the different realms, a couple of the different worlds, like some Earth combatants and like
I do want to say one of my favorite parts of the preview is definitely you get to see Scorpion and Sub-Zero fighting, and there's a part in the preview where Sub-Zero slices Scorpion, blood flies out of Scorpion, Sub-Zero freezes the blood in midair, turns it into a knife, and then stabs Scorpion with the fucking ice knife that he just made out of his own blood.
So badass.
So cool. Yeah.
And there is going to be a new character that isn't in the video games. He's kind of going to be like the main character instead of following like Johnny Cage, the action movie star.
I didn't even see Johnny Cage in the preview, which I thought was weird.
I hope we don't get him because he was just so...
He was a douche.
So bad.
He was a douche, yeah.
In the 90s film that I just hope that they don't choose.
But he had the coolest line in the whole movie.
Oh, because of sunglasses. Oh,
those are $1,000 sunglasses, asshole. Boom. Yeah, hilarious.
Speaking of Goro, we do get a quick glimpse of Goro.
Brief, yeah.
Still looks a little computer animated.
You mean they didn't find a guy with like 4 arms in real life?
Right. It's kind of hard, but I mean, technology has come a long way. So I'm hoping that they just
for the preview.
For the preview, they just wanted to include him, so they included an early rendering.
Yeah.
The graphics for him is better. But like Jake said, we're actually going to see finishing moves in this, which is awesome. You know, you see Scorpion throw his dagger and then get over here as he yanks him across the combat zone.
Which is pretty badass because I had watched the preview and I sent it to Chad. And then he watched it and was like, that looks so cool. And then he pointed something out to me that I had not actually noticed in the preview. You see Scorpion in the preview outside of costume. And he, in the 90s movie, I'm going to backtrack on myself, I'm sorry. In the 90s movie, Scorpion has these vagina hands that just like open up and these little like reptiles come out with like a chain
They're on like it. Weird reptile spear
and they like
tumors.
And they like chase people through the woods.
It's so
His
bad.
hand literally looks and opens up like a vagina and then this thing comes out of it and is like and chases people. And
you're not wrong.
And in this movie you get a more realistic take on it. I don't know the name of the weapon, and I wish I had researched before I opened my mouth.
It's an old Japanese weapon that a lot of like ninjas and samurais used. It's basically a blade on a chain or a rope.
On both ends of the rope or chain.
Yeah.
There's a blade on each end.
And it's a distance weapon is what it comes down to. So, you know, you can swing it, you can throw it, you can fight close combat with the blades. But Scorpion uses those. But early on in the trailer, you see a very more realistic, almost primitive version of this weapon.
Out of costume.
Yeah.
Scorpion.
Basically, people are trying to break into his house and he ties a knife to a rope and just wreaks havoc with it.
Yeah.
And then as the trailer progresses, so does his weapon. You start getting chains attached to these blades. But what I think is super cool is, like we mentioned, you're going to start seeing finishing moves.
Yeah. So we didn't get to see that in the 90s movie.
No, we did not.
I don't think they did any finishing moves in the 90s movie.
Does Liu Kang summon the dragon in the 90s movie?
Oh, he did at the end, didn't he?
Very, very briefly at the end.
Lame, but that movie was
terrible.
Not good.
So we're going to ignore it. In the trailer, you see Liu Kang summoning fire from his hands and then summoning a fire dragon.
You also see Sub-Zero fucking freezing Jax's arms and then just breaking them off and just a spew of blood coming out of his arms.
Yeah, building ice walls and throwing people through them.
Yeah. It's going to be fucking rad.
We're going to get all kind. We're going to get one of the closest adaptations for like a Versus style video game turned into a movie that we could probably ever hope for.
Yeah.
And that's what really excites me about it, is because we haven't seen it.
Yeah.
And
it's going to be cool. Unless you count like Prince of Persia and you get...
Yeah, but that's not a Versus game.
No, I was making a joke.
Jake Gyllenhaal was not Persian.
I was making a joke because Jake Gyllenhaal is very white and not from Persia.
And I pretend like that movie didn't happen.
It didn't.
What movie exactly?
Yeah. Prince of what?
So that's kind of where Mortal Kombat's at. I mean, it's very early. We're gonna get it on HBO Max and in theaters sometime this year.
I think in the next couple months. I think April 16th.
Is it in April already?
Yeah, April
I thought
16th.
It was a little bit further out. But if you guys have HBO Max, I mean, you can watch it there, or obviously in the theaters. That's kind of what Warner Brothers and HBO Max are doing this year for every release. It's going to be both digital.
If you can safely go to the theaters, go to the theaters. I miss going to the movie theater. I love going to the movie theater. And I know that COVID has changed a bunch of stuff, but if you can safely do it, do it.
It's a whole different experience.
Yeah. Next week, we're going to dive into, we only have 2 episodes of WandaVision left, which is pretty crazy and exciting. But for next week, we're going to dive into the episode that we'll be watching on Friday. And then I think we want to talk a little bit about Godzilla versus Kong, because that is also coming out in March. And, all things nerdy, we're going to talk about everything that's nerdy. And when I was a kid, I remember watching black and white versions of Godzilla and King Kong with my mom when I was a kid. So I think this will be a fun one to touch on. There's 3 movies prior. It's Godzilla, then there's Kong Skull Island, and Godzilla King of the Monsters. So next week we will dive into that trailer and WandaVision for the week. So we're going to cheers out. And
if you like what we're doing, please, 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 share this with your friends, with your family. You can find us online. You can find us at www.allthingsnerdpodcast.com. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and a handful of third-party podcast player apps. Please like and subscribe. If you like what you're doing, please give us a 5-star review and share with your friends, your family, like I said. It really helps us out. If you don't like it, that's totally fine. You
send us hate mail.
Well, be nice. If you don't like it...
Any press is good press.
If you don't like it, share it with someone who might. If you really don't like it, feel free to email us. And if you just absolutely hate what we're doing, you can just go away. Again, you can find us at allthingsnerdpodcast.com. We mentioned it at the end of the last episode. If you have any suggestions, anything that you want us to dive into, that's along the lines of the nerd realm, feel free to email us at hello@allthingsnerdpodcast.com with your suggestions. If it's something that you want us to watch, review, break down, anything like that, we'd be more than happy to do that. We love this
nerdy stuff. Yeah. Even if we're unknowledgeable about it, we will. Is that even a word? That's not a word. Unknowledgeable.
If it's not a word, it makes sense.
Yeah. We will knowledgeable ourselves on it.
That's not the word.
And we will, if you want us to play Magic, we will go and play Magic, and we will review the game and whatever.
That's another thing too. We'll get into it as we actually get to that point, but we will be setting up some listener-only content with some virtual tabletop games or card games or basically whatever you want to do. If you want to start a Call of Duty squad that we play regularly on, I'm all for that. We're going to try and set up a lot as we move forward. This is just going to grow. Yeah. But with that being said,
we're going to cheers out.
We are going to cheers out. We're going to have our final shot of the episode. And thank you guys for listening to the All Things Nerd podcast.
We love you guys.